In the shadow of the ancient clock mansion, where time itself seems to unravel, the midnight chimes echo without cause. Strange temporal figures flicker through the halls, and Scooby and Shaggy find themselves trapped in an eerie time loop. What dark force controls this mysterious place? And why now? The gang faces a puzzle where past and present collide. Will they escape the endless ticking? The sun was just dipping below the horizon as the mystery machine rattled down a dusty country road, flanked by towering oaks whose twisted branches seemed to reach out like ancient fingers. Up ahead loomed the clock mansion, a sprawling, weathered stone estate with dozens of clocks embedded in its facade, each frozen at a different hour. The fading light caught the glint of brass pendulums swinging silently behind cracked glass. A sense of uneasy stillness hung heavy in the air, as if time itself was holding its breath. Fred, perched in the front seat, checked the blueprints once more. "All right, gang, here's the plan. This place has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons: strange chimes at midnight, unexplained shadows, and reports of people seeing their own reflections acting independently. We're here to find out what's really going on." His voice was steady, but even he couldn't hide the faint tremor of curiosity. Velma, eyes sharp behind her glasses, adjusted her backpack laden with scientific instruments. "I've been reading about this mansion's history. Built in the 1800s by an eccentric clockmaker obsessed with bending time. They say his inventions were so advanced, people thought he was meddling with forces beyond understanding." She paused, eyes scanning the ominous building. "If any of it's true, we're about to uncover something big." Daphne, elegant as always but with a hint of nervous excitement, peered up at the mansion's looming silhouette. "I don't like the way the shadows move around that place. It's almost like the building is alive, or watching us." She wrapped her arms around herself, the evening chill creeping in. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, meanwhile, sat huddled together in the back, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. Why'd it have to be a spooky clock mansion?" Shaggy whispered, clutching Scooby's paw. "I don't do ghosts or time loops or whatever weird stuff happens here." Scooby gave a nervous "roo-row" in agreement. The group stepped out into the chilly air, the crunch of gravel underfoot breaking the eerie silence. Fred led the way to the massive oak doors, which creaked open with a sound like a slow sigh from the house itself. Inside, the walls were lined with clocks of every shape and size. Grandfathers, pocket watches, cuckoos, each frozen in a different moment, none ticking, none chiming. "Weird," Velma murmured, running her fingers over a dusty shelf of clock gears. "Not a single clock is working, but there's that sound." Suddenly, a sharp chime echoed through the halls, a deep, sonorous gong striking midnight, although none of the clocks showed that time. The gang froze. "Did you hear that?" Daphne whispered. Before anyone could answer, a fleeting shadow darted past the end of the corridor, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Scooby growled softly, hair bristling. "We need to set up cameras," Fred said quickly. "If something's causing this, we'll catch it in the act." Velma pulled out a small device from her backpack, a high-tech camera with night vision, and started placing it carefully among the shadows. As the group explored further, Daphne's sharp eyes caught a faint outline behind a large bookshelf. "Hey, guys, look at this." She pressed against the wall, and to everyone's shock, a hidden door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with clocks that seemed to hum with energy. Velma's eyes widened. "This is no ordinary room. These clocks, they're linked somehow. I think this is the source of the strange happenings." Scooby and Shaggy, meanwhile, had wandered off down a narrow staircase. Suddenly, the walls seemed to ripple, and the steps repeated endlessly beneath their feet. "Shaggy, I think we're stuck." Scooby whimpered as they found themselves walking in circles, trapped in a bizarre loop where every turn led them back to the same step. Back upstairs, Fred and Daphne exchanged worried glances. "We have to find them, and fast," Fred said. "Something about this place is twisting time itself." As the mansion's ancient clocks chimed midnight once again, the gang realized their adventure was just beginning, but the question remained, could they solve the mystery before they too became prisoners of the clock mansion's eerie enigma? Scooby and Shaggy's footsteps echoed endlessly as the narrow staircase twisted beneath them, the cold stone walls blurring in their frantic eyes. Every time they thought they had reached the bottom, the steps seemed to reset, leading them right back where they started. Man, this is totally bogus, Shaggy groaned, rubbing his temples. Why do these stairs feel like a giant hamster wheel? Scooby whimpered, his ears drooping as the same echoing footstep pattern repeated. Meanwhile, upstairs, Fred gathered the others in the secret clock room. The air hummed faintly with a strange energy, thick with the scent of aged wood and oil. Velma carefully examined one of the more intricate clocks, a brass-faced timepiece with gears spinning backward and forward simultaneously. "This isn't just some weird clock," she said, her voice low and intense. "I think this machine is manipulating the flow of time in this mansion." Daphne, still uneasy, shifted from foot to foot, eyes darting toward the creaking walls. "But why? And who built something like this? It's like the whole house is a trap." Fred's brow furrowed. "Remember the clockmaker, Elias Kronos? Local legend says he tried to build a device that could control time itself, to fix mistakes or relive moments forever. But something went wrong. Maybe this clock room is his failed experiment." Velma nodded, pulling out a small notebook filled with sketches and notes. The overlapping gears and the odd energy reading suggest a temporal loop, a repeating cycle that traps anything caught inside. She glanced nervously toward the hallway. Scooby and Shaggy might be stuck in one now. Back on the staircase, Scooby whimpered again as the stone walls seemed to pulse, shadows flickering unnaturally in the flickering torchlight. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared ahead. A translucent man with eyes glowing faintly blue. The apparition raised a skeletal hand, and the stairs shifted beneath them, sending Scooby and Shaggy sliding back down the loop. Zoinks! "We're caught in some kind of time trap," Shaggy yelled, trying to scramble away, but every step brought them back to the same place. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the clock room upstairs. Fred and Daphne rushed in to see Velma stumbling backward, clutching her chest. "I think I triggered something," Velma gasped, pointing to the main clock. It was spinning faster and faster, its hands whirling so quickly they were a blur. Fred stepped forward, shouting over the roar, "We need to stop it before the whole mansion collapses into chaos." Suddenly, the walls around them trembled violently. A low rumble filled the air as the clocks on the walls began chiming in unison, creating a dizzying cacophony. The entire mansion seemed to pulse with a heartbeat. Steady, slow, then rapid and erratic. Daphne grabbed Fred's arm. "If this machine is controlling time here, we have to find a way to shut it down or we'll be trapped forever, like Scooby and Shaggy." Velma nodded, frantically scanning her notes. There might be a master switch hidden in the mansion's west wing, an old control room. It's the only way to override the time loop. Fred's expression hardened with resolve. "Then that's where we're headed. Daphne, Velma, with me." As the trio made their way through the shadowed halls, each tick of the countless clocks seemed louder, more ominous, like a countdown. Upstairs, Scooby and Shaggy faced the ghostly figure again. "We gotta get out of this loop, Scoob," Shaggy pleaded, looking for any sign of a way forward. The apparition drifted closer, whispering words they couldn't quite understand but that sent chills down their spines. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the stone floor beneath them. A shimmering portal swirling with blue light. Scooby barked excitedly, and Shaggy, despite his fear, grabbed his friend's paw. "Maybe this is our way out." As they jumped toward the portal, the mansion's clocks chimed midnight one final time, louder, sharper, and more chilling than before. The portal pulsed, threatening to close, and the ghostly figure reached out a spectral hand. Will Scooby and Shaggy escape the endless loop? Can Fred, Daphne, and Velma reached the control room in time. And what secrets lie beyond the shimmering portal? The enigma of the clock mansion deepens, and time itself is running out. The blue portal shimmered and flickered as Scooby and Shaggy tumbled through the swirling light, landing with a soft thud on cold stone. Their breaths came in ragged gasps, hearts pounding as the ghostly figure faded away into the shadows behind them. Man, where are we now?" Shaggy whispered, glancing nervously around the dimly lit chamber. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of old wood and burnt oil, mingled with something metallic and faintly electric. Scooby sniffed cautiously, his ears twitching. "Rua, I don't like this place." The room was cluttered with strange objects, old clock parts, scrolls of parchment covered in cryptic symbols, and a large, ancient book resting on a pedestal in the center. The walls were lined with faded paintings of stern-looking men, their eyes seeming to follow every move. Back upstairs, Fred, Daphne, and Velma carefully navigated the twisting corridors toward the mansion's west wing. The mansion's eerie ticking filled the silence, as if time was counting down to something inevitable. According to Velma's notes, this control room should be just past the library, Fred said, glancing at the map in his hand. "We have to be careful, whatever is controlling this place could be dangerous." Daphne's eyes narrowed. "I'm telling you, this house is alive. It's like it's watching us every step we take." Her voice was barely above a whisper, as a shadow flickered just beyond the doorway. She spun around, nothing but empty hallways greeted her. Velma adjusted her glasses, studying the blueprint. The mansion's architecture is a maze, designed to confuse and trap. Elias Kronos wasn't just a clockmaker, he was a mastermind of puzzles. She traced a finger along the wall, noting a faint outline that seemed out of place. "Here, there's a secret passage behind the library's bookcase. That must lead to the control room." They moved quickly, the heavy bookshelves creaking as they pushed one aside to reveal a narrow, dust-choked staircase spiraling downward. The air grew colder and heavier with every step. Meanwhile, in the secret chamber below, Scooby and Shaggy cautiously approached the ancient book. Shaggy wiped years of dust from its cover, revealing the embossed words, "Chronicles of Kronos, the key to time." His eyes widened. This could be important." Scooby whimpered but wagged his tail hesitantly. As Shaggy flipped through the fragile pages, strange symbols began to glow faintly, illuminating a series of diagrams that resembled the clocks scattered throughout the mansion. "Look at this, Scoob, it's some kind of map, or a guide." Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the chamber, extinguishing their small lantern. In the sudden darkness, whispers echoed, voices speaking in a language neither could understand, weaving through the shadows. Upstairs, Fred, Daphne, and Velma reached a heavy steel door, ornate and old, with gears embedded in its frame. Velma's fingers trembled as she studied the lock. "This isn't a normal door, it's mechanically sealed, connected to the mansion's clock system. We need to synchronize the lock with the right time to open it." Fred glanced at the mansion's many clocks, each stuck at a different hour. "Which time do we use?" Daphne asked nervously. Velma's eyes locked onto the brass-faced clock that spun backward and forward. "That one, it's the heart of the time loop." She carefully turned the hands to midnight. With a grinding sound, the door slowly swung open, revealing a cavernous room filled with whirring machinery, levers, and more of those eerie clocks. A large control panel dominated the center, pulsating with blue light. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the room, fleeting and unnatural. "We're not alone," Fred said quietly, reaching for his flashlight. Back in the chamber, Shaggy and Scooby heard the whispers grow louder, now accompanied by a rhythmic ticking that seemed to echo their own heartbeat. The glowing symbols in the book pulsed faster, and the floor beneath them vibrated. Scooby growled softly, his fur standing on end. Shaggy swallowed hard. Maybe we shouldn't have touched that book." As the mansion's clocks began their ominous chime once more, the hidden secrets of Elias Kronos started to unravel, and the gang realized that unlocking the mystery might come at a cost far greater than they imagined. Fred, Daphne, and Velma stepped cautiously into the control room, the air thick with the scent of metal and ancient machinery humming faintly in the background. The blue glow from the control panel cast long shadows across the walls, flickering like the heartbeat of the mansion itself. "This place feels alive," Daphne whispered, her eyes scanning the numerous clocks, levers, and dials surrounding them. "Like we're inside the mind of the clockmaker." Fred moved forward, examining the console. "This must be where Elias Kronos tried to control time," he said, tracing his fingers over strange symbols and buttons. "If we can figure out how this works, maybe we can shut down the loop and free Scooby and Shaggy." Velma was already at a panel filled with glowing runes. "Look at this," she said, her voice intense. "These markings match the ones in the Chronicles of Kronos, the book Shaggy and Scooby found." The clockmaker wasn't just building machines, he was experimenting with something more, metaphysical. Time manipulation through ancient rituals. Daphne shivered, glancing at the massive gears embedded in the walls. "So the clocks aren't just clocks, they're part of a ritual. No wonder this mansion feels so haunted." Suddenly, a low rumble shook the floor. The control panel flickered erratically, and the ticking of the mansion's clocks accelerated into a chaotic crescendo. Fred's eyes narrowed. "Something's reacting to our presence." Velma frowned, typing furiously on the console. "There's a failsafe, a security protocol that activates when someone tries to override the system. We need to disable it, or the time loop could become permanent." Just then, the chamber door slammed shut behind them with a deafening clang. Daphne rushed to the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "We're trapped." Fred activated his flashlight, sweeping the room. "We need to stay calm and work together." "Velma, can you bypass the lock?" Velma nodded but looked worried. "It's going to take time, and I'm not sure what else might happen while we're here." Far below, in the secret chamber, Scooby and Shaggy struggled to make sense of the glowing book and the strange whispers swirling around them. The symbols began to pulse faster, casting eerie lights on the cracked stone walls. "I think the book is trying to tell us something," Scooby murmured, pawing at a page filled with ancient writing. Shaggy squinted. "Like, it says here there's a way to control the time loop, but it involves using one of Kronos' clocks to reset the whole system. Problem is, it looks dangerous, and complicated." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and a glowing glyph appeared on the floor, pulsing with light. Scooby's fur bristled. "Ruo, this can't be good." Back upstairs, Velma's fingers flew across the control panel, decrypting runes and disabling the failsafe system. The rumbling slowed, and the ticking became steady once more. "Almost there," she whispered. Fred scanned the room, spotting a large lever marked with an ornate symbol matching one from the Chronicles. "This has to be it, the reset." Daphne hesitated. "If this controls the whole mansion's time, pulling the lever might have serious consequences." Velma glanced at her friends, eyes fierce with determination. "We don't have a choice. If we don't stop this now, Scooby and Shaggy, and maybe all of us, could be trapped forever." Fred nodded. "All right, on the count of 3. As Velma prepared the system for reset, the glowing runes on the walls intensified, filling the room with blinding light. The clocks around them began to chime wildly, their hands spinning faster and faster. In the secret chamber, Scooby and Shaggy were caught in a vortex of swirling lights and strange noises. The whispers rose to a deafening roar as the glyph beneath them pulsed rapidly. With a powerful pull, Fred yanked the lever down. The entire mansion shuddered violently. Time seemed to stretch and warp, moments freezing and flickering like broken film. Then, silence. The clocks all stopped, their faces blank and still. Scooby and Shaggy suddenly found themselves standing at the base of the staircase, the ghostly figure nowhere in sight. "Like, we're out!" Shaggy exclaimed, breathless. Upstairs, Fred, Daphne, and Velma stared in amazement as the control panel went dark, the eerie blue light extinguished. Daphne exhaled slowly. Is it really over? Velma nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. Maybe for now, but the secrets of Elias Kronos run deeper than we imagined. This mansion isn't just a building, it's a gateway to something much bigger. Before they could react, a faint ticking echoed from somewhere deep within the walls. A reminder that time's enigma might never fully be solved. The mansion's eerie silence settled like a heavy fog as the gang regrouped near the grand staircase. Scooby and Shaggy, still catching their breath, exchanged glances with the others, their wide eyes reflecting the dim light. That was way too close, Shaggy muttered, his voice shaky. I'm never touching a weird book again. Fred gave a short laugh but didn't look entirely relieved. We might have stopped the loop for now, but something tells me this mystery isn't over. Elias Kronos' secrets are still buried in this house. Daphne's gaze drifted toward the flickering candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. I found something strange in that hidden room, an old diary belonging to Kronos himself. It's filled with cryptic notes about time's guardians and a final key. She held up the brittle, leather-bound book. We need to know what he meant before more strange things happen. Velma carefully opened the diary, the pages brittle but filled with neat, precise handwriting. According to this, Kronos believed time was not just a measure, but a living force, something that could be controlled, shaped, or even trapped. She paused, reading a passage aloud. To master time, one must find the heart of the clock, a place where past and future meet, guarded by shadows of forgotten moments. Shadows of forgotten moments? Fred repeated, frowning. Sounds like we're dealing with some kind of supernatural force. Suddenly, a soft, rhythmic ticking echoed from somewhere deep within the mansion, growing louder and more insistent. The gang exchanged uneasy looks. Scooby's ears perked up. Ruro, sounds like trouble. Daphne nodded. We have to find this heart of the clock, before whatever is guarding it decides to show itself. Velma pulled out her tablet, cross-referencing the diary notes with the mansion's layout. The diary mentions a room beyond time, a place that exists outside the normal flow. It's probably the mansion's clock tower. Fred nodded decisively. Then that's where we're headed. As they ascended the narrow, spiraling staircase to the clock tower, the mansion seemed to grow colder, the air thick with anticipation. Shadows flickered around them like whispers from another era. Reaching the tower's entrance, Fred pushed open the heavy wooden door to reveal an enormous clock mechanism, gears grinding and spinning with an otherworldly rhythm. The giant clock face loomed above, its hands frozen at midnight. Velma approached the control panel beside the mechanism, her fingers trembling as she examined the intricate dials and levers. This must be the heart of the clock, the source of the mansion's power over time. Suddenly, the room grew darker. From the shadows emerged a figure, translucent yet unmistakably human, cloaked in an aura of shimmering light. It was Elias Kronos himself, or rather, his restless spirit. Who dares disturb the flow of time? The apparition's voice echoed like a distant bell, both sorrowful and commanding. Fred stepped forward bravely. We're here to stop the time loop and end the chaos in this mansion. Kronos' ghostly eyes flickered. You seek control over a power you do not understand. Time is a river that cannot be dammed without consequence. Velma swallowed hard. But this loop trapped innocent people, Scooby and Shaggy included. They were caught in your experiment. The apparition's expression softened, a trace of regret shining through. I sought to preserve moments lost to time, to capture memories before they faded. But my hubris created a prison. Daphne looked around the chamber, eyes wide. Is there a way to fix it? To free everyone? Kronos nodded slowly. There is a final key, hidden where the first tick began. To find it, you must surrender control and trust in the flow of time itself. As Chronos' spirit began to fade, the clock tower's mechanism slowed, the gears settling into stillness. The gang exchanged determined looks. "Then we find this key," Fred declared. "No matter what." But as they prepared to leave the tower, the mansion trembled once more, the faint echo of ticking growing louder. A haunting reminder that time's mysteries were far from over. The mansion's corridors felt different now, less like a trap and more like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Fred led the way, the old diary clutched tightly in his hand as they descended deeper into the mansion's shadowy bowels, searching for the place where the first tick began. The air grew colder with each step, and faint echoes of ticking followed them like whispers from the past. Daphne shivered but pushed forward. If this key really exists, it has to be here somewhere. We just have to keep looking. Velma's eyes scanned every carved detail on the walls. The diary mentioned the original clockmaker's workshop. That must be the origin of the first tick. Scooby and Shaggy stayed close, their usual nervousness replaced with a quiet determination. "Like, I'm ready to get out of this spooky place," Shaggy admitted. As they reached a heavy oak door marked with intricate clock gears, Fred glanced at Velma. "You think this is it?" Velma nodded, pulling the door open slowly. Inside was a room frozen in time, dust-covered workbenches, unfinished clock parts, and in the center, an ornate wooden box sealed with ancient symbols. Fred approached cautiously. "This must be the final key." Daphne studied the box's carvings. "Looks like some kind of puzzle lock. We need to figure out the right sequence." Velma bent over the box, tracing the symbols. "These correspond to the phases of the moon, the cycles of the clock hands, and the passage of hours, the same codes Chronos wrote about in his diary." Scooby let out a nervous whimper, but Fred encouraged him. "We're close, buddy. Let's solve this." Working together, they carefully manipulated the carvings in the correct order. As the last symbol clicked into place, the box creaked open, revealing a small, glowing gear inscribed with a pulsating rune. Daphne gasped. "This has to be it. The heart of the time loop." Suddenly, the mansion groaned as if waking from a deep slumber. The clocks throughout the mansion began to chime in unison, a sound both haunting and beautiful. Velma held the gear up, her eyes wide. "This gear can reset the flow of time. If we place it into the master clock tower, it should dissolve the loop once and for all." Fred nodded. "Then let's end this mystery." Making their way back to the clock tower, they climbed the spiraling stairs, the glowing gear lighting their path. Once inside, Fred carefully placed the gear into the master mechanism. The clock's hands began to turn forward, slowly at first, then accelerating until time itself seemed to surge through the mansion. Outside the windows, the first light of dawn broke through the night sky, chasing away shadows and dispelling the eerie silence. Scooby barked happily. "Roo-row! We did it!" Shaggy grinned. "Like, I'm never doubting you guys again." As the mansion's strange powers faded, the ghostly figure of Elias Chronos appeared one last time, a gentle smile on his ethereal face. "Thank you for freeing me, and time itself." Velma watched him fade into the morning light. "The past can teach us, but we must always respect the flow of time." Fred looked around the mansion, now peaceful and still. "Another mystery solved, gang." Daphne smiled, relief washing over her. "And no more strange ticking, at least, for now." The gang exited the mansion, stepping into the bright new day. Though the enigma of the clock mansion had been solved, the echoes of time's mysteries lingered, a reminder that some secrets, like time itself, are endless.